My name is Margaret Hayes. I am 72 years old, with silver hair that I wear swept back in a simple style, pearl earrings that were my mother's, and a beige coat I've owned for 20 years. I've learned that elegance doesn't require extravagance. The morning of my son Robert's wedding, I woke early. The sunlight came through my bedroom window in soft golden streams. I made myself tea, the way I'd done every morning for 50 years. My hands were steady as I lifted the cup. Robert was my only child. His father, Thomas, passed away when Robert was just 16. I raised that boy alone, working double shifts at the hospital where I was a nurse. I gave him everything I had. When Robert got engaged to Cynthia, I was happy for him. She seemed nice enough, though we never quite connected. But that's normal, isn't it? A mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law don't need to be best friends. The wedding was at an elegant venue downtown. I drove myself there, taking my time. I wore my best dress, navy blue with a pearl necklace. Simple, dignified. When I arrived at the reception desk, I smiled at the young woman working there. "Good morning," I said warmly. "I'm Margaret Hayes. I'm here for the Hayes-Morrison wedding." She looked down at her tablet, scrolling with her finger. Her expression changed. She looked confused. Let me check again," she said, her voice uncertain. I waited patiently. "I've learned that patience is a virtue worth cultivating. I'm sorry, ma'am," she finally said, meeting my eyes with an apologetic look. "Your name isn't on the guest list." The words hung in the air between us. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. "That can't be right," I said, still smiling. "I'm the mother of the groom." She checked again, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. Then she looked up at me with genuine sympathy. "I'm so sorry. There must be some mistake. Let me get the wedding coordinator." But I knew. In that instant, standing in that beautiful lobby with its crystal chandelier and its white roses, I understood perfectly. I wasn't invited to my own son's wedding. I asked the young woman to find Robert for me. She disappeared through a doorway, and I waited. My heart was beating normally. My breathing was calm. 50 years of nursing had taught me how to stay composed in a crisis. Robert appeared 5 minutes later. My son, 6 feet tall, wearing a beautiful grey suit. His face was flushed, his expression somewhere between embarrassment and annoyance. "Mom," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "What are you doing here?" "I came to your wedding," I said simply. "I'm your mother." He glanced over his shoulder, then back at me. When he spoke, his voice was low. "Did you really think you'd be invited?" The words were meant to hurt, and they did. "But I've learned that showing pain only gives power to those who inflict it. I raised you alone after your father died," I said quietly. "I worked night shifts so you could go to college. I was there for every baseball game, every graduation, every moment that mattered." He rolled his eyes. Actually rolled his eyes. "That's the problem, Mom. You were always there, hovering, controlling everything. Cynthia and I, we wanted this day to be about us, about our new life, without all the baggage. That's what I'd become. The mother who'd sacrificed everything was now just baggage." "I understand perfectly," I said, and I smiled. It was a genuine smile, calm and knowing. Robert looked surprised. He'd expected tears, perhaps, anger, pleading. "You do?" he asked, completely. I replied, "I hope you have a beautiful wedding." I turned to leave, but I paused and looked back at him one more time. "When your phone starts ringing during the ceremony," I said, "you might want to answer it." His brow furrowed. "What?" But I was already walking away, my heels clicking softly on the marble floor. I got into my car and sat there for a moment. The parking lot was filling up with wedding guests. Happy people in beautiful clothes, laughing and chatting. I took out my phone and made a call. "Hello, this is Margaret Hayes," I said when the lawyer answered. "Yes, I'd like to proceed with what we discussed, the trust fund that Thomas set up for Robert. I want it transferred according to the alternative provisions." "Yes, all of it. To the scholarship fund for nursing students we talked about creating." Thomas had been a careful man, a wonderful man. Before he died, he'd set up a substantial trust fund for Robert to be released when he turned 35 or got married. Whichever came first. Robert was 34. The trust was worth nearly $2 million. Thomas had also included a clause, at my insistence years ago, that gave me discretion over the funds if Robert ever showed a lack of character or disrespect toward his mother. We'd laughed about it at the time, never imagining it would matter. Thomas always said, "A man who can't honor his mother won't honor anyone." The lawyer confirmed everything. The papers would be filed immediately. I sat in my car for another moment, thinking about Thomas, remembering his gentle smile, his kind hands, his absolute devotion to our family. Then my phone rang. It was my friend Dorothy. "Margaret, are you all right? I just heard Dorothy had a grandson who was friends with Robert." News traveled fast. "I'm fine," I said. "Actually, I am better than fine. I am free, apparently." Robert's phone started ringing during the ceremony. Right as the officiant asked if anyone objected, the ringing continued. Robert ignored it at first, but it kept going. Finally, red-faced and furious, he stepped away to silence it. That's when he saw the messages. From his bank, from the lawyer, from the trust fund administrator. The money was gone. Not gone, really. Just redirected to help young nursing students who came from difficult circumstances. Students who reminded me of myself at 20, working my way through school with no help from anyone. Robert called me 17 times that evening. I didn't answer. Cynthia's father apparently made a scene when he discovered that Robert wasn't the wealthier he'd been led to believe. There were arguments, accusations, the kind of drama that turns a wedding into something people whisper about for years. 3 weeks later, Robert showed up at my door. I was in my garden, tending my roses. It was a warm afternoon, and I was wearing my gardening gloves and my wide-brimmed hat. "MOM," he said from the gate. I looked up. He looked tired. There were circles under his eyes. "Hello, Robert," I said calmly, snipping a dead bloom. "I need to talk to you, of course. Would you like some lemonade?" He seemed thrown by my pleasantness. He followed me to the patio where I poured us both glasses. We sat in silence for a moment. "The money," he finally said. "MOM, that was my inheritance. Dad wanted me to have it." "Your father wanted you to be a good man," I replied. "He wanted you to honor your family. He put the provision in the trust specifically for this situation. But $2 million is helping 20 students get through nursing school," I said. 20 young people who will go on to help thousands of patients over their careers. Your father would be proud." Robert's jaw clenched. "Cynthia is furious. Her parents are furious. They thought you were wealthy." I finished. "But you're not. You're a man with a good job and a decent salary. That should be enough for someone who truly loves you." He was quiet. "Does she?" I asked gently. "Does Cynthia love you? Or did she love what she thought you represented?" Robert and Cynthia's marriage lasted 8 months. She left him for a banker she met at a charity gala. Someone with actual money, she told him. Someone from a better family. When Robert called to tell me, I could hear the break in his voice. "Can I come over, MOM?" he asked. "Of course, sweetheart," I said. "I'll make your favorite pot roast." He arrived an hour later. We didn't talk about the wedding or the money or any of it at first. We just sat together, the way we used to when he was young and the world felt too big and confusing after dinner, as we did dishes side by side. He finally spoke. "I was such an idiot. You were confused," I said. "Love can make us confused." It wasn't love, though, was it? I tried a plate thoughtfully. "I think you loved an idea of who you wanted to be. Cynthia fit that idea. But ideas aren't the same as real connection. You tried to warn me," he said. "Actually, I didn't," I replied. "I let you make your own choice." "That's what parents have to do eventually." He set down the dish he was washing and turned to me. "I'm sorry, MOM, for all of it. For not inviting you. For saying those things. For being ungrateful for everything you sacrificed." I put down my towel and took his hands in mine. "Robert, I forgave you the moment you said them. That's what mothers do. But I also needed you to learn something important." "What's that?" "That dignity isn't given. It's claimed. That respect isn't demanded. It's earned. And that family isn't just blood. It's showing up. It's honoring the people who've shown up for you." He hugged me then, and I held my son the way I'd held him when he was small and scared of thunderstorms. A year passed. Robert sold the house he'd bought with Cynthia and moved into a modest apartment downtown. He started volunteering at a community center on weekends, teaching kids to play basketball. One Sunday, he brought someone to meet me. Her name was Elena. She was a teacher at an elementary school. She wore simple clothes and had a warm, genuine smile. When she shook my hand, she looked me directly in the eyes. "It's wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Hayes," she said. "Robert talks about you constantly, over lunch." I learned that Elena's mother had been a nurse, that she'd grown up in a working-class neighborhood, that she believed in service and community and building a life based on values rather than appearances after they left. I sat in my garden and thought about Thomas. Our boy figured it out, I said to the sky. Took him a while, but he got there. Robert and Elena got married 2 years later. It was a small ceremony in my backyard, under the oak tree that Thomas had planted when Robert was born. 30 guests, folding chairs, homemade decorations. Elena wore her grandmother's wedding dress, altered to fit. Robert wore the suit his father had been married in. When Robert asked me to say a few words, I stood up and looked at the faces around me. Friends, family, people who mattered. Marriage isn't about perfect moments, I said. It's about choosing someone every single day, even on the hard days. Especially on the hard days. It's about showing up, being honest, honoring the promises you make. I looked at Robert and Elena. You two understand that. You've both learned that. Real wealth isn't in a bank account. It's in integrity, in kindness, in being the kind of people others can count on. Everyone raised their glasses that night as guests lingered over coffee and cake. Robert pulled me aside. Thank you, Mom, he said, for everything, for raising me right, even when I forgot what that meant, for the tough love when I needed it, for not giving up on me. I never could, I said simply. You're my son. The money, he said, the trust fund. I want you to know, I'm glad it's helping those students. Dad would be proud, and I'm proud too. I squeezed his hand. Your father loved you so much, I said. He wanted you to be happy, truly happy. I think you're finally there. Robert smiled. I am, for the first time in a long time. I really am. I am 75 now. Robert and Elena have twin daughters, Sarah and Grace. They're 3 years old, with Robert's eyes and Elena's smile. Every Sunday, they come for dinner. The girls help me in the garden. Their small hands careful with the flowers. Robert grills burgers. Elena sets the table, sometimes on quiet evenings. I sit on my porch and think about that day. The day I wasn't invited to my son's wedding. The day I learned that sometimes love means stepping back, letting consequences teach lessons that words never could. I don't regret what I did. Not for a moment, because the son I have now, the man who shows up, who calls regularly, who's teaching his daughters about kindness and respect and honoring family, that's the son I always knew he could be. Sometimes people need to lose something to understand its value, and sometimes the greatest gift a parent can give is the space to make mistakes and the grace to come home when they finally understand. My phone rings. It's Robert. Hey Mom, can we come over tonight instead of Sunday? The girls really want to see you, of course, I say, smiling. I'll make cookies. You're the best, Mom. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. I hang up and look at the photo on my mantle. Thomas and me on our wedding day, young and hopeful. We did good, I whisper. It took some time, but we did good. The afternoon sun streams through the window, warm and golden, and I go to the kitchen to start baking.